Welcome back to the news today. This is One-on-One. Rabbi Issamar Ginzberg is himself a descendant of numerous famous rabbis, including Rabbi Nachman of Breslov. But what is perhaps most interesting about him is that he is an expert business consultant on social media and an international business speaker. He addresses conferences, cooperations, industry groups, business associations, and others. Rabbi Ginzberg, thank you very much for coming to our studio.
Thank you very much for having me.
So, when I first received your name and I started doing a small research about you, I said Rabbi and an expert on social media, the Torah and social media, how these two, you can combine them in worshiping God.
Okay, well, first of all, first let me shock your audience by saying that social media doesn't really exist. And what I mean by that is that there's no real difference between social media and what we'll call old-fashioned print media, for example, except for the fact that everything happens at a much faster speed. So just like a person once, years and years ago would have to wash their clothes by hand, and then they invented the washing machine, so too social media is simply, and the internet in general, online, is simply the offline world at a faster speed. There's nothing intrinsically different about online than offline. So I'm fully comfortable there simply because it's an extension to what everybody is already doing.
So how does it, because, big rabbis and they might say that it's, in Islam they say it's haram, it's forbidden, it's not allowed to enter the internet because it's exploring you to things that you should not be explored to. It's showing you things that you should not see, and you don't want to be exposed to things that you're not supposed to be exposed to.
Okay, very good points. First of all, I am certainly not the spokesperson for Orthodox Judaism saying the internet is permitted or something like that. My phone, which I do not have with me here in the studio, is actually a kosher phone, which has a rabbi certification. I cannot use the web on it. It does not have Facebook, and so on. At home, I have access to email, but I have a kosher internet, which is approved by rabbis, which means I have no, let's call it, things that are haram in my home as well. In my office, where I do have internet, also with a filter, that's a business environment, which is, even according to the, when rabbis say it's forbidden, they're not saying it's forbidden to use. They're saying it's not something that somebody should have their head in all the time, and something that should be in their house, around their children, and so on and so forth.
Explain to me kosher. Kosher internet, kosher phone. Explain this to me.
Explain kosher.
For me, it's something that I know because I'm living here in Israel. But for our viewers outside of Israel, they don't understand right now, because for them kosher, it's maybe separating meat and milk, and it's not iPhone or iPad, which are kosher.
Okay. Before I answer that question, I just want to say that when people look at the Orthodox community and say, well, they must be backward because they don't use social media and so on and so forth, I don't think that that's true. I think that there are many, many, many people in the Orthodox world who run businesses successfully of all kinds, some of which are offline businesses which have online components, like an online website, and many of which are involved in import, export, all different kinds of businesses, all of which use the internet and use, just like in the diamond industry, which is known to be sort of a Jewish industry. Yes, it's true that many of the Jews there sort of only seem to interact with each other, and therefore they're seen as a closed-in community. But once a person out there deals with Orthodox Jews, Hasidic Jews in particular, in business, and they get to know them, they're not in any way left back. Kosher internet essentially it's not perfect. It's not like kosher food where if it's slaughtered kosher, it is kosher, and if it's not, it's not. It's a little bit different. It's more of like trying to filter the good from the terrible. The telephone as well. There are numbers a person can call on the phone which are not exactly appropriate to call. The same is true in the bookstore, the same is true everywhere. A person has to have their own guidelines and their own will to want to be a certain way. And if they don't have that willpower, then nothing will make a difference in any case.
The most, it's what you said is pretty amazing, because one of the biggest claims that we have towards the new age, the internet, the new technology, is that it educated us to bad things. It educated our generation to not use this amazing tool to good and maybe to better things, and it's basically making us study and learn some bad habits.
Okay, so as I explained earlier, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, it's just my interest is how do you use it in the Orthodox community to expose your community for more and influence your community about and just spread the word of the Orthodox community out there.
Okay, so as I explained earlier, what the internet has done is it's made everything go at a faster speed. So if somebody's Orthodox and they're looking to become, let's call it, God forbid, non-Orthodox, they want to go off, then if they were in Europe in a small village before the Holocaust, it would be really hard for them to find other people who are like-minded, and therefore make it harder for them essentially to have a supportive community which would enable them to do what they wanted to do. However, on the internet, that's not the case. You can simply type in a couple of words and find groups of people that do anything. You can find groups of people that like to collect Vietnamese pigs. There's groups of all kinds of people. And therefore, the internet has had both a positive and a negative effect in that way. If somebody wants to, for example, find out more about kosher, just as an example, they're just a click away. When I need to know certain things in Jewish law, for example, I'm sitting with a chavrusa, I'm sitting with a study partner who is actually a convert to Judaism, and he asked me some question, for example, are you allowed to feed your goldfish on Shabbat? Okay, so instead of trying to go look it up in a book, in a sefer, I'll simply go to Google and I'll type in, is it permitted to feed a goldfish on Shabbat? And I will actually get the answer from there, and then look at the bottom to see where he's quoting the answer from, and then go look it up in a
Who are your friends on Facebook?
Okay, the problem with Facebook, and just by the way, I consider Facebook and Twitter, for example, to be social media tools. I do not advise my Orthodox clients as a rule to go onto those platforms. I do, however, strongly recommend LinkedIn. To me, LinkedIn is not a member of that same family. LinkedIn is a combination of Rolodex and
people that have the same interest from your business
correct, meaning
world.
To say, on Facebook, I might say, I was at I-24 News being interviewed about my business, and they gave me this wonderful mug. On LinkedIn, I wouldn't say that, because it's not considered the same level of platform where you talk about what you had for dinner last night. Mm-hmm. This is more of a conversational platform. LinkedIn is more of a business platform. So I do think that LinkedIn is probably if not one of the most powerful tools that Hashem has given this generation to enable them to live the lifestyle they want, anywhere they want, and make a living doing it.
And
so the question was, who are my friends on Facebook?
Yeah.
So the big problem with Facebook essentially is that if you and I are friends on Facebook and then you change your picture, then I have no control over that, and yet in my Facebook feed it will come up the new picture.
Do you have a Facebook account?
Yes, I have a Facebook account. I'm sure I'll be getting lots of requests after this.
Yes, definitely.
However, I have images shut on Facebook.
Oh.
So I actually use Facebook without any images. I once had one of the heads of El Al come to meet me in Jerusalem, and I walked into the meeting, and there were 3 men, all tall men, all well-dressed, and I wasn't sure which one was the one that I had been in touch with. He says, Issamar, you don't recognize me? So I felt a little bit silly saying, he says, we're friends on Facebook. So I actually felt a little bit silly telling him on Facebook I don't have images, I actually didn't know what you look like.
One status when you're living here, what you will post on your Facebook page?
Only in Israel. Good one. Let's see. A Hasidic Jew on television, which he doesn't watch, being interviewed by an Israeli Arab with whom, before the days of the internet, would never be sitting across the same table.
So I will
discussing.
Finish, and I will say thank you very much, and I will continue the status. Thank you, our viewers. We'll see you tomorrow.